March 2nd feels very different from yesterday. If March 1st was quiet identity restructuring, today is emotional momentum building under the surface. Mars has moved into Pisces, and immediately there is a shift in how action feels. It is no longer direct, sharp, or confrontational. It becomes emotional, intuitive, reactive. The fire is still there, but it is moving through water. And when fire moves through water, it does not disappear, it distorts. Psychologically, this can feel like heightened sensitivity combined with an urge to act. You may feel compelled to respond, to fix, to confront, to defend, to pursue something, but the motivation might not be entirely clear. Mars in Pisces does not act from logic, it acts from feeling, from mood, from subtle undercurrents that are difficult to articulate. At the same time, Mars forms tension with Jupiter. That tension expands whatever is already brewing. Confidence can inflate, anger can inflate, inspiration can inflate. The danger is not emotion itself. The danger is escalation without clarity. This creates a very specific internal dynamic. You may interpret your emotional intensity as certainty. You may believe that because you feel strongly, you must act immediately. But strong feeling does not always equal accurate perception. There can also be moral justification energy today. Mars in Pisces can adopt a savior stance or a martyr stance. I have to do this. No one else understands. This is the right thing. And Jupiter amplifies that narrative, making it feel bigger, more urgent, more righteous. Underneath all of this is something softer. Pisces dissolves boundaries, so you may be absorbing more from your environment than usual. Other people's moods, collective anxiety, subtle tension in conversations. If you are not aware of that absorption, you might act out emotions that were not entirely yours to begin with. Today is not about suppressing action. It is about pausing before action. It is about asking one essential psychological question. Is this response coming from clarity or from emotional overflow? You may feel restless, you may feel compelled, you may feel slightly overwhelmed by the intensity of your own inner world. That does not mean you are wrong, it means the waters are moving. The work today is to separate intuition from escalation. Intuition feels calm even when it is firm. Escalation feels urgent, inflated, slightly dramatic. March 2nd is about learning that difference. Mars entering Pisces is not a loud transit. It does not kick down doors. It seeps in. Mars represents drive, assertion, anger, desire, the instinct to move towards something or push against something. In Pisces, that drive becomes diffused. The boundaries between self and other soften. Motivation becomes emotional rather than strategic. Psychologically, this can create confusion around impulse. You may feel motivated, but unsure why. You may feel irritated, but unable to trace the source. Pisces absorbs atmosphere. So Mars here often acts on accumulated feeling rather than a single event. This is where projection becomes likely. If you have been suppressing frustration, it may surface indirectly. Passive aggression, withdrawal, overextension disguised as kindness, offering help that was never requested, then feeling unappreciated. Mars in Pisces can express anger through sacrifice. Now add the tension to Jupiter. Jupiter expands whatever it touches. In hard aspect to Mars, it can create overconfidence, exaggeration, and moral inflation. There is a risk of believing that your reaction is not only justified but necessary, that your perspective is not only valid but superior. This is not inherently negative. It can also amplify courage and inspiration. But without clarity, expansion magnifies distortion. Psychologically, this combination can produce a savior complex dynamic, a sense that you must intervene, rescue, correct, or prove something. It can also produce burnout. Mars pushes forward. Jupiter says, push further. Pisces dissolves the boundary that would normally say, stop. So the deeper tension today is not about action itself. It is about emotional boundaries around action. Where are you acting because you genuinely want to? Where are you acting because you feel responsible for emotions that are not yours? Where are you escalating because the intensity feels meaningful? There is also a spiritual layer here. Pisces can romanticize struggle. It can frame sacrifice as noble. Mars gives that narrative movement. Jupiter gives it justification. This is how people overextend themselves while believing they are doing the right thing. Growth today requires emotional discernment. Anger is not wrong. Passion is not wrong. Urgency is not wrong. But ask whether the scale of your reaction matches the scale of the situation. If it feels larger than the moment, something older may be moving through you. This transit teaches restraint without suppression. It teaches conscious action rather than reactive motion. Mars wants to move. Pisces asks, move toward what? Jupiter asks, how far are you willing to take this? The mature response is not to freeze. It is to slow down just enough to ensure that your action is aligned, not inflated.
On a practical level, today may feel emotionally louder than it objectively is. You might wake up with a subtle urgency, a sense that something needs to be handled, a conversation needs to happen, a boundary needs to be set, a plan needs to move forward. But when you look closely, the situation itself may not be dramatically different from yesterday. That is the Mars effect. It activates motion, and in Pisces, that motion is guided by feeling rather than logic. Small interactions can feel amplified. A delayed response to a message might trigger doubt. A neutral comment might feel personal. A minor inconvenience might feel symbolic. Jupiter's involvement makes everything feel larger than life, like the emotional volume has been turned up a few degrees. This is also a day where over-promising becomes easy. You may feel inspired and say yes to something without fully calculating your energy. Pisces wants to help. Mars wants to act. Jupiter says there is more than enough capacity. Later, you may realize your bandwidth was not as infinite as it felt. Watch for subtle, passive dynamics. Instead of directly expressing frustration, you might withdraw. Instead of stating a need clearly, you might hint. Mars in Pisces does not always confront. It sometimes dissolves into silence, expecting the other person to intuit what is wrong. If you notice that pattern, gently interrupt it. Clarity is more powerful than emotional guessing. There is also creative potential here. Emotional intensity can translate into art, writing, music, or spiritual practice. If you channel the energy consciously, it can feel inspired rather than chaotic. The key difference is intention. Before responding to anything significant today, pause long enough to ask yourself one question. If I wait 1 hour, will I still feel the same urgency? If the answer is yes, then your action is likely aligned. If the answer shifts, then what you were feeling may have been escalation rather than intuition. Fatigue can also creep in by the end of the day. Emotional exertion is still exertion. If you find yourself drained, it may not be because you did too much physically. It may be because you processed too much emotionally. March 2nd is not dangerous, it is simply amplified. And when amplification meets blurred boundaries, discernment becomes your most important tool.
Now, let's bring this into you, sign by sign, not as prediction, but as psychological growth work. If you're in Aries, this shift activates your unconscious emotional world. You may feel irritated without a clear external cause. Growth for you is about tracing reactions back to their emotional origin instead of acting on them immediately. Not every surge requires movement. Sometimes strength is demonstrated through restraint. If you're a Taurus, this energy stirs your social and community dynamics. You may feel compelled to intervene, help, or defend someone. Growth now is about checking whether you are overextending out of loyalty or out of a need to feel indispensable. Support does not require self-sacrifice. If you're a Gemini, your public image and ambitions may feel urgent. You might feel pressured to prove something or take action quickly. Growth for you is about distinguishing inspiration from ego inflation. Acting boldly is powerful, but acting prematurely can create unnecessary complications. If you're a Cancer, your belief systems are being activated emotionally. You may feel strongly about an idea, a philosophy, or a moral stance. Growth lies in ensuring that your conviction is grounded in reflection rather than emotional intensity. Passion is meaningful, but it benefits from patience. If you're a Leo, deeper psychological triggers could surface. Power dynamics, trust issues, or fears of vulnerability may intensify. Growth for you is about noticing where control feels safer than openness. Acting defensively may protect you in the short term, but transparency creates deeper strength. If you're a Virgo, relationships become emotionally charged. You may feel that someone else's behavior requires immediate response. Growth now is about pausing before confrontation. Ask whether you are reacting to the present moment or to accumulated frustration. Clarity strengthens connection more than urgency does. If you're a Libra, daily responsibilities could feel heavier than usual. You might try to take on more than necessary, believing it is the responsible thing to do. Growth for you is about recognizing limits without guilt. Overcommitment does not equal virtue. If you're a Scorpio, romantic or creative impulses may intensify. You could feel drawn to express something dramatically or pursue something passionately. Growth lies in channeling that energy constructively rather than letting it spiral into obsession. Depth is your gift, but intensity benefits from containment. If you're a Sagittarius, emotional undercurrents within family or home life may rise. You may feel compelled to address something that has been simmering. Growth for you is about ensuring that honesty is delivered calmly, not explosively. Expansion is sustainable when it respects emotional boundaries. If you're a Capricorn, communication patterns are highlighted. You may feel strongly about making a point or correcting misinformation. Growth now is about tone as much as content. Directness is powerful, but it is most effective when grounded rather than reactive. If you're an Aquarius, financial or self-worth themes may feel urgent. You might feel compelled to make a quick decision about resources or commitments. Growth lies in slowing the pace. Emotional confidence does not always equal practical readiness. And if you're a Pisces, this transit lands directly in your identity and drive. You may feel more motivated, but also more emotionally reactive. Growth for you is about defining what truly deserves your energy. Not every emotional wave is a call to action. Choose your battles consciously. As we close out March 2, bring your attention back to something simple. Intensity does not automatically mean truth. Today's energy can make emotions feel urgent, meaningful, almost prophetic. You may feel as though you must respond now, decide now, act now. But emotional amplification is not the same as clarity. Mars in Pisces teaches a subtle lesson. Action is most powerful when it comes from alignment, not overflow. When you act from overflow, you are usually discharging something. When you act from alignment, you are building something. Notice the difference in your body. Overflow feels tight, pressured, slightly frantic. Alignment feels steady, even if it is bold. If you reacted strongly today, do not judge yourself. Instead, ask what was underneath it. Was it fear of being overlooked? Fear of losing control? A need to feel significant? A desire to rescue or to be rescued? There is also a compassionate layer here. Pisces reminds us that we are porous. You may have absorbed tension that was not entirely yours. You may have mistaken collective anxiety for personal urgency. That does not make you weak, it makes you sensitive. The growth opportunity is discernment. Before the day ends, reflect on this. Where did I feel compelled to act? Did that action come from clarity or emotional escalation? And what would it look like to respond tomorrow with just 10% more awareness? You do not need to suppress your passion. You do not need to doubt your instincts. You only need to slow them down enough to hear what they are actually saying. Because when emotion moves through water, it can either flood the landscape or nourish it. The difference is intention.